yours, Aaron? Can your music stand be a little lower or lower would be ideal, but if it's hard for you to see, we don't want that.
Robert?
He's got to see. You don't want to play on your knees. Or maybe just a little scooch. Maybe a little closer to you if you can back up like 6 inches and move the stand back to 6 inches. 4 inches. 3 inches. I'll take 3 inches. I think that's going to be fine. Okay. Brett, once in a while you should lean forward and have a bit of enthusiasm for your instrument. I'm going to ask you to curtsy. Okay. So this is a little loud. Maybe we could this could be a little loud. My voice loud. Maybe just a tiny bit quieter to talk mic. And then I think we're good to go. Look at this, 8:45. Blammo.
Okay, that's it.
So we're starting with Kyle, but I'm going to talk first and I'll look at you. You guys are there. The audience is here. You all can pay me at the break. And it's BYOB here at Bird and Beckett, but it's too late for you to go to the corner store because you got culture ahead of you. Don't you dare touch these beers. I'm not authorized to do anything to give them to the band for free. Okay. Thank you, Lisa. All right. Thanks everyone for being here, and thank you to Eric, our host, who wears many hats. So we're going to play a whole suite of music for you guys tonight. This is kind of special. We have not played this music in its entirety in the Bay Area since like 2019. And probably may not play it again. We're taking this to New York next week, and we're going to play it at the Stone. And this is a new version of an older group, but it's a book of music that is really dear to my heart. It's all based on stories by Italo Calvino, his Cosmicomics stories. And you'll be hearing a little bit more about the stories as we go along. The first one is called The Soft Moon. And this is a story that, like many of them, kind of personifies and kind of explores some of like the human feelings around things that you would think of being as celestial or on a micro scale, like either cosmic or micro scale. And so this one is the feeling of realizing how different the moon's substance is from the Earth's and being unnerved by that. It revolted me, because it was a thing that, though you couldn't understand what it was made of, or perhaps precisely because you couldn't understand, seemed different from all the things in our life, our good things on Earth, of plastic, of nylon, of chrome-plated steel, ducotone, synthetic resins, plexiglass, aluminum, vinyl, formica, zinc, asphalt, asbestos, cement, the old things among which we were born and bred. This moon was something incompatible, extraneous. Enlarged by the telescope, it appeared to me in all its details, or rather, many of its details appeared to me all at once. So mixed up that the more I observed it, the less sure I was of how it was made, and I could only vouch for the effect the sight caused in me, an effect of fascinated disgust. First of all, I could note the green veins that ran over it, thicker in certain zones like a network. But to tell the truth, this was the most insignificant detail, the least showy, because what you might call the general properties eluded the grasp of my glance, thanks perhaps to the slightly viscous glistening that transpired from a myriad of pores, one would have said, or opercula, and also in certain points from extended tumefactions of the surface, like buboes or suckers. There, I'm concentrating again on the details, a more picturesque method of description, apparently, though in reality of only limited efficiency, because only by considering the details within the whole, such as the swelling of the sublunar pulp, which stretched its pale external tissues, but made them also fold onto themselves like inlets or recesses, looking like scars. It is, as I say, only by considering the whole, as in diseased viscera, that the single details can also be considered. For example, a thick forest as of black fir which jutted out of a rift. Thank you so much. That one featured Aaron Bennett on the sax, the tenor sax to be exact, and Mark Clifford on the vibraphone. Did everybody hear okay? Any requests? You want to hear that?
I mean, I can't hear you. Okay.
That was the cool. Let's try it and see if they can still hear. This one's called Crystals. Thanks. Yeah, I think, Eric, it might be that we need to keep this mic off except for when I'm using it. I think it's because it's so close to the speaker. So I'm trying. I have to play the bass, so it's hard to. We're doing our best here. It's good. I think there's like a little, quieter is better because it was feeding back. Thanks a lot. These next couple of pieces is a little bit of a suite based on two stories of the Cosmicomics. One is The Form of Space, and the next is All at One Point. Also on that tune, you heard Brett Carson take a solo, along with Jordan Glenn. It was a duo. It was a two-person solo. A two-person solo. And also, Kyle Bruckmann has joined this group and is doing these amazing sounds. Please enjoy the sounds of Kyle Bruckmann on synth back there. Right. This is you, Jordan. To fall in the void as I fell. None of you knows what that means. For you, to fall means to plunge, perhaps from the 26th floor of a skyscraper, or from an airplane which breaks down in flight. To fall headlong, grope in the air a moment, and then the earth is immediately there, and you get a big bump. But I'm talking about the time when there wasn't any earth underneath or anything else solid, not even a celestial body in the distance capable of attracting you into its orbit. You simply fell, indefinitely, for an indefinite length of time. I went down into the void, to the most absolute bottom conceivable, and once there, I saw that the extreme limit must have been much, much further below, very remote, and I went on falling to reach it. Since there were no reference points, I had no idea whether my fall was fast or slow. Now that I think about it, there weren't even any proofs that I was really falling. Perhaps I had always remained immobile in the same place, or was moving in an upward direction. Since there was no above or below, these were only nominal questions, so I might just as well go on thinking I was falling as I was naturally led to think. Naturally, we were all there, old Quiff said. Where else could we have been? Nobody knew then that there could be space, or time either. What use did we have for time packed in there like sardines? I say packed like sardines, using a literary image. In reality, there wasn't even space to pack us into. Every point of each of us coincided with every point of each of the others in a single point, which is where we all were. In fact, we didn't even bother one another except for personality differences. Because when space doesn't exist, having somebody unpleasant, like Mr. Pibber underfoot all the time, is the most irritating thing. How many of us were there? Oh, I was never able to figure that out. Not even approximately. To make it count, we would have had to move apart at least a little. And instead, we all occupied the same exact point. Contrary to what you might think, it wasn't the sort of situation that encourages sociability. Mrs. Philook's great secret is that she never aroused any jealousy among us, or any gossip either. We got along so well together, all of us, so well that something extraordinary was bound to happen. It was enough for her to say at a certain moment, "Oh, if only I had some room! How I'd like to make some tagliatelle for you boys." And in that moment, we all thought of the space that her round arms would occupy, moving backwards and forwards with the rolling pin over the dough, her bosom leaning over the great mound of flour and eggs, which cluttered the wide board, while her arms kneaded and kneaded, white and shiny with oil up to the elbows. We thought of the space that the flour would occupy, and the wheat for the flour, and the fields to raise the wheat, and the mountains from which the water would flow to irrigate the fields, and the grazing lands for the herds of calves that would give their meat for the sauce, of the space it would take for the sun to arrive with its rays to ripen the wheat, of the space for the sun to condense from the clouds of stellar gases and burn, of the quantities of stars and galaxies and galactic masses in flight through space, which would be needed to hold suspended every galaxy, every nebula, every sun, every planet. And at the same time we thought of it, the space was inevitably being formed at the same time that Mrs. Philook was uttering those very words. Thank you so much. Eric, could you turn down this bass monitor a bit, please? I feel like it got a little out of control. It's taken over the stage. Thank you. Yeah, thanks. I think the whole stage volume got like a little crazy because of this. So better. This next one is called The Aquatic Uncle. And it,
No,
oh, no, is it not?
it's called science.
Oh,
You do whatever you want.
I lost my chart. No, we're gonna do the one I said we do. Sorry. I didn't have it up. Take that back. It's called Signs. For Jordan, we're both in right now. It's the first time, right? We're in together, right? Got it. And now the aquatic uncle, which is a little parable against progress.
I was just going.
One, two, three. This next one is maybe the most famous of the Cosmicomics stories. A lot of people know this one. It's called The Distance of the Moon. And in this story, the people of Earth, when the moon comes closer every month, they row boats out into the sea with ladders, and they jump onto the moon to harvest its milk. And in one of these instances, a woman goes up and brings her harp, and she's very coveted by all the men in this town, the husband, all the other men in the boat. And apparently she gets accidentally stuck up there on the moon, and the next month there's this huge rescue mission to get her off the moon. But she's been up there with her harp all month shedding, and she's really actually quite happy without all of those men. So I think of it as kind of an awesome celestial feminist parable. The Distance of the Moon. And the role of the harp will be played by Brett tonight. We still have a couple more for you. Thank you so much for listening. What a joy to play with these human beings I have on stage with me. Or actually, they're on the stage. The band leader is punished when you bring 6 people to a bookstore gig. You get the floor. This one is called Solar Storms, and it's this is our love song in our set. It's about a solar flare who falls in love with a human and moves to Earth to live with them and be with them in a small village in the countryside. But the problem is that the electrostatic energy from this solar flare is ruining everybody's TV reception in the town where they live, and an angry mob chases them away and ruins everything. People. This last one is one of my favorites. It's called Blood Sea. I want to introduce the band again because they're extraordinary. This is Aaron Bennett on the tenor saxophone. Brett Carson on the Nord. Jordan Glenn on drums. Kyle Bruckmann on synth back there. And Mark Clifford on the vibes. My name is Lisa Mezzacappa, and we are so grateful that we're going to be going to New York next week to play this music and also a totally different book of music over 2 nights. So if you have any friends who like weird music in New York, I think that's half of New York, right? We will buy them a slice of pizza if they come and meet us and hang out. Thanks so much to Eric and to this bookstore, which literally puts on more jazz concerts than most jazz clubs in the Bay Area. Like, holy cow. Okay, keep this mic on, Eric. Thanks. Sun's rays penetrated to brighten them in flashes or else in sprays. We undulated with no sense of direction, drawn by an obscure current so light that it seemed downright impalpable, and yet strong enough to drag us up in very high waves and down in their troughs. Zilphia would plunge headlong beneath me in a violet, almost black whirlpool and soar over me, rising toward the more scarlet stripes that ran beneath the luminous vault. We felt all this through the layers of our former surface dilated to maintain the most extended possible contact with that nourishing sea. Because at every up and down of the waves, there was stuff that passed from outside of us to our inside, all sustenance of every sort, even iron, healthful stuff, in short. And in fact, I've never been so well as I was then. Or to be more precise, I was well since in dilating my surface, I increased the possibilities of contact between me and this outside of me that was so precious. But as the zones of my body soaked in marine solution were extended, my volume also increased at the same time, and more of a luminous zone within me became unreachable by the element outside. It became arid, dull. And the weight of this dry and torpid thickness I carried within me was the only shadow on my happiness, on our happiness, Zilphia's and mine. Because the more she splendidly took up space in the sea, the more the inert and opaque thickness grew in her too, unlaved and unleavable, lost to the vital flux, not reached by the messages I transmitted to her through the vibration of the waves. So perhaps I could say now that I'm better off than I was then, now that the layers of our former surface, then stretched on the outside, have been turned inside like a glove. Now that all the outside has been turned inwards and has entered and pervaded us through filiform ramifications. What it is a distinction that I should bring up to give a clearer idea of before and now. Before we swam, and now we are swum. Thank you so much. We have a record of this too, if you're interested over there. Thanks everybody. Have a good night. Keep supporting this space. Extraordinary, gentlemen. Extraordinary. So much music.
Fair amount of music.
Fair amount. Pretty good. It's like an hour's fast. It's like maybe 5 minutes short of an hour.
Can we play the soft one again? Right now? Can we just hit that again,
You want to
please?
do something again? Yes, we're going to
just
be
hit
there
those again
next
real
week.
quick?
Yeah, this
we
group's
just
going to
hit
be there
those again?
exactly a week from today, next Friday.
Sit down and shut up. We need to hit these again.
Son in Brooklyn.
Oh my goodness.
Tell them to come and see you
Yeah,
guys.
and we're playing different music but same band on Saturday too. So yeah, next week.
Cool.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I think they'll be there.
Oh, cool.
Oh, good.
Yeah, let's hit those again. And then we can go. Y'all can go. We're going to hit the set again.
You want to do the whole thing again?
Yeah, let's hit the set one more time. And then we can roll. Yeah. Again!
I love you for saying
Again!
I just need to sit down with signs and figure out what's happening. I wouldn't say, I wasn't confused. I was